Hello and welcome to The Art Hunter, and I'm David Hunt. My guest today, you know what, I'm going to interrupt already my own little spiel because he reckons that his main priority is as a painter on walls and a variety of media, you know, like, as I said, mostly walls, canvas, illustrator on paper. But he's doing this other stuff. He's just made a transformer. What's that all about? That it's on its way to Sydney, well, about a week or so ago, for Comic-Con up there. So he's a liar to begin with. So his own bio is a fib, so we've got to work out that why he's such a fibber. All right, he's travelled the world for 10 years, and really interesting what happened there. He's even painted on the Berlin Wall. I wonder if he rode a bike on top of the Berlin Wall. We'll have to get to that. He's an active member of Everfresh Studio since 2006, exhibiting in many countries around the world. His work hangs in private collections and public collections, including an acquisition by the National Gallery of Australia in Canberra. Ooh, important. Plus our wonderful NGV here in Melbourne and Mona down in Tasmania. A lot of his artwork is captured the world in which nature forces fight back against us hideous people and stop the advancement of our civilization. So that nature's trying to fight back. And there's so many great examples around Melbourne of his artwork. It is my pleasure today to introduce a liar, a bike rider, who also is an incredible artist. Mike, hello.
Hello, David. Thank you for having me here today.
My pleasure. Now, why do you call yourself just an artist when you've done, like this transformer?
Well, that was finished 2 days ago, so maybe my bio is not updated enough. But I've done a number of different sculptures over the years, but I don't think it's quite as refined, and it's not something that I really want to say that I'm going to be doing these things, you know.
Oh, so this is more of a one-off?
No, I want to get more into sculpture.
You want to get more into it,
definitely,
right?
And I want to create sculptures off the things that I've painted.
Yeah.
And you saw my workshop a couple of days ago. It's new, 4 weeks old.
Yeah.
So the idea is that's going to be a long-term place for building things.
Okay. So let's talk, because when I was reading your bio, and it was lovely meeting you in advance because I find it really important to know who I'm interviewing. And I read it and it said something about, like you got a scholarship to go to New York and you were there for 5 years.
Yep.
And I saw the word bike and I went, I reckon it's a mistake. But it was bike. Tell us the story.
Well, so I went to New York to study art, but I was on a sports academic scholarship, which was mostly for sport. I was playing lacrosse there. Right. And so I'm getting free education in this fancy college there. And studying art 2 years there, but I ended up living there for 5 years. I had a girlfriend there, had lots of work, and my main job was a bicycle courier. Right. So I did that job.
A bicycle courier in New York City.
Yeah. So I did that job about 5 years
Whoa.
In New York, but 9 years all up.
Right.
On and off.
Yep.
That's with a lot of travel and studying. And but 18 to 27 was my main income. And 9 cities.
9 cities. Wow. And painting on the Berlin Wall as well.
Yeah, well, I painted in many places, but I lived in Berlin 3 months.
Yep. Right. So what like you said you were in New York for 5 years and you were studying art and playing sport as well and being a bike courier. What art form were you taking?
Well, the study was pretty broad and I was definitely not focused on finishing a degree there. So I was picking things that were the most fun. So I was doing life drawing, oil painting, screen printing, and some history, philosophy of art, which was interesting one.
Okay.
In that class, we would visit a different museum every week.
Whoa.
And then debrief on the grass or in the cafe. It was raining.
Fantastic. Yeah. And New York, some of the best museums, art galleries in the world.
It's a different perspective when you're doing a class around that. Yep. And you're learning with other people in a similar state, I guess.
So where did it come from? And maybe it started in New York or through Europe, like painting on walls?
Probably my family's house. I'm one of 6 kids, and I think when the 4th or 5th kid was born, my parents renovated and moved upstairs.
Yeah.
And so we had the run of the house. It's quite an old house.
Okay.
And 6 kids drawing all over the walls. That's when I was probably about 12.
And they let you do it?
6 against 2. So, and now the house looks like a magazine. My dad's done it up, but all the kids have grown up and moved out. But
yeah.
So we had movie quotes, a lot of like silhouettes, a lot of like charcoal drawings and stuff. And so that was there for most of my childhood.
Right, okay.
And so my mum's a musician. My dad was a dentist and a psychologist, but he's quite creative. So they kind of encourage this.
Right, fantastic. So you were getting an education into art on the walls in your family home.
But I think that bike career, I guess you call it, that you're in the streets, you're going down alleyways, you're seeing different sculptures, you're seeing all the graffiti, you're seeing public murals everywhere. And with that job, I travelled 5, 6 years around the world tickets. So I'm seeing a lot of cities, going to bike career events, and just absorbing everything.
Right. Hold on, bike career events?
Yeah, there's like world championships and national championships, and every city will have their local kind of races and stuff.
Right, okay. Fantastic. So you're not from Melbourne?
No, I grew up in Adelaide.
Right, okay. Why did you move? Did you move to Melbourne when you came back from overseas?
More or less, and it wasn't a clear decision. It was more that I was just coming through Melbourne every time to New York, and then on the 5th year, I just started living in Clifton Hill with my sister and got a job in the bike shop around the corner.
Right, okay.
And that's 15 years ago.
Right. So when did you seriously start taking an interest in forging a career as an artist?
Well, it probably wasn't until 27 and 25, 26, I had a studio, Everfresh, and I'm doing lots of things, and I'm studying graphic design, finishing a degree, and I didn't really see it as a viable option. It wasn't like there was many friends who were at that point.
Yeah.
And 27, I did a NEIS course, so I had government support for a year, and I was also applying for Fire Brigade.
Okay.
So the Fire Brigade takes quite a while to go through the process, and within that 4 years of applying, I was sustainable as an artist. So.
Right, okay. What was the big break as an artist, Mike? Was there one moment that you thought, this is a career for me?
I guess around about that 4th year, I think I had a solo exhibition and pretty much sold everything.
Oh, wow.
And it was that point that I was thinking, okay, I didn't need to get another job ever. And the first few years I was doing many different things in the visual world of graphic design, web design, screen printing, and things like this.
Yeah.
So I guess after 4 years, I'm just focusing on my own thing.
Yep. And walls, what about walls? Because, that's where you've really forged a name for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably, I would say 2/3 of my time is painting murals, and I'm trying to slow down, trying to be a bit more selective.
Why?
It's physically hard. I think that doing the sculptural things and also doing more canvas work there's so much to learn, so much more.
Yep.
It's been 10 years that I'm pretty much painting a mural every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
But some of them are unbelievable.
Some big ones.
Over your shoulder is that huge one, and there's photos of you with a crane up so high.
Yep.
And a wind could blow you off, couldn't it?
Yeah, there's another silo that's about 15k from that one.
Yeah.
And that one's next to some wind turbines. There's 50 turbines along these paddocks.
Yeah.
And that was one of the only times that I've actually been quite scared.
Right.
So when you're right at the top, I think it's 26 meters, and the wind changes every day with where the turbines are facing.
Yep.
And sometimes you get a gust of wind and it moves you about nearly a metre.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
So it can be tricky to paint as well if you're trying to do something.
And then there's another shot that I noticed of yours as well, where it was an octopus you were painting, and it was on a part of a wreckage of a jetty or something.
Yeah.
And the like cherry pick was straight
out in the water, yeah.
That would have been terrifying, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that one I had to concentrate on not dropping anything because it's right in the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Sea Road ferries, so connecting Sorrento there.
Right. And do you find it stimulating doing something like that?
I like the adrenaline part, and I like the physical side of things.
Yeah.
And I think that painting murals is one of the most direct ways to show your art to
the world,
general population.
Yeah. And Melbourne being such a big city on that front as well. But there's a bit of a message with a lot of the stuff you do. You know, like, I didn't realise it was your works, but there are a couple in Melbourne, the city centre, that you know, like on the whole side walls, you've painted it's a jungle taking over the city. You're very conscious of that, aren't you?
Yeah, that theme just keeps popping up with me, and it seems to be adaptable to a lot of different things.
Yeah, and even to the extent now where you're actually working, you did one recently where it was somebody that feels that, you know, like the what you do on the walls could be a real message for climate change.
Yeah,
tell us about that.
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago in Fitzroy. That was a friend of mine who's he's a renewable sector energy consultant. Policymaker kind of job.
Yep.
And he lives in this house, and he asked me to paint that one behind you actually. Yep. Paint the whole facade. Yep. So he lives in there with his wife and 2 kids.
Yeah.
And so he wanted just a bold statement for the COP26 conference in Glasgow. And fun mural. It was quite challenging with all the windows there, and there's lots of different architectural elements. And he also wanted a lot in the one image. And so we had to kind of like narrow this down to make it, you know, easily digestible. And
tell us about the collective that you've got. You know, like this you know, studio space in Collingwood.
Yes.
What's it called again?
It's called Everfresh.
Right. Why Everfresh?
Everfresh was a metal sign that is hand painted. It says Everfresh since 1939.
Yep.
This is a company that still exists, and they were in this building in the back of PBS in Collingwood.
Okay.
And they're a company that makes the chocolates and sweets that are the scoop things in confectionery things in supermarkets.
Right.
So they're not really like a brand that people know.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even part of the studio when this all happened, but the guys found that, and this was mid 2005, I think.
Yeah.
And they were tagging it around the neighbourhood, and I guess it just kind of stuck.
Yeah. And what happens in the studio? You know, like what do you do there?
Yeah, well, I guess it's a bunch of individual artists, and we all share rent, and we have quite a large common space. Back in the early days, it was more like a group, like a collective. We'd do group exhibitions and have meetings and group goals, I guess, but one by one people have left, and it's just refilled with other artists doing various things.
So it's basically your baby then, is it, now?
Well, not really, because I don't feel like I have ownership, and I have some responsibilities being on the lease and director, but it's not like I have much to say about the general thing.
Yeah. But you're on the lease though.
On the lease, yeah. So this is not always a good thing. We have
well, because you're the one that's stayed there. And, you know, like, was it handed to you in the end? You know,
in the end, I guess one of the last standing from the original people.
Okay. And you're happy to be still part of it?
For sure, it's stimulating, and you go in there, and people are doing interesting things, and you're finding out about art shows or opportunities, and we share information on groups and stuff.
Yeah. How many people are part of it?
I think there is 12 artists there.
Okay, that's a lot.
We all have our little spot.
Yeah.
And then there's a loading bay for messy outdoor kind of work, and there's another large area in the middle there.
And what is the bulk of art that comes out of there?
Most people are drawing and painting. So
Okay.
There's one girl there, Kyoko, who does etchings, screen printings, and pressings.
Right.
And she does a bit of illustration as well. But
right.
Yeah, most people paint.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the Transformer.
Sure.
Yeah, it's all very new and exciting for you, and you've done a brilliant job.
Thank you.
On your first one too.
Well, first thing that I'm learning to weld and build something of that size. So
you're doing the welding and all that yourself as well?
I did the welding that you can't see that's inside the legs there.
Right, so therefore it's quite messy, isn't it?
Yep, it's quite messy, but it does suit the theme of that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, does it, on something like that? How did you find all the bits and pieces?
This was led by a friend, Cesare, and he's Polish-born and has studied high levels of sculpture. So he led kind of the armature of the body. To get all those parts, we did 2 or 3 runs around Brunswick hard rubbish, which was quite coincidentally timed. And we bought a couple of things online for the headlights, and the best place, the golden place, was the Motorbike Wreckers.
Right.
Because we went through their rubbish, and it was like this much of stuff.
And you didn't have to pay for it?
We did actually pay $150 for a few good things we wanted, and that let us go through their rubbish, I guess. Yeah.
So how did you say, well, this part will go here or there? You
yeah,
know,
it's an interesting process. But we had just like temporary tables all around us, and when we went from the bottom up, and the bottom we tried to make it look like the Transformer Bumblebee character, but then we're just kind of going, okay, the kneecap, what's going on here? I'd grab a piece and he'd hold it, and then he'd grab a piece and I'd look at it, or whatever, just kind of organic like that.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of back and forth and a bit of times where we just scrapped that idea and started again. But we had 3 or 4 times the amount of rubbish to stick on there than we needed.
Right, and have you kept it? Because
no.
You got rid of it?
Well, he's taken it because he might get another gig doing a dog, yeah.
Okay. So how long did, not collecting all the bits and pieces, but how long did it take you to actually get the form and you were happy with it?
Yeah, well, I think 9 days in total.
Right, okay.
To finish, and it's...
So was there a time where you actually thought, oh, we've got to go and find another piece?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because we went through a few things, and that's when we caught up the motorbike records and we found one that was perfect.
Yeah. So you're an illustrator as well, and you work on paper on that front. Does that work for you as well? Because are you doing too much? Like that's the feeling.
I think definitely, but illustration, I guess, is for me the basis, the raw form.
Yeah.
And that's where I'll start with ideas. And it's also, that's the most accessible if you're traveling with a backpack as well.
Yeah.
A little thing of watercolors and color pencils. And
And what is your topics there? Is it, like you keep yourself pretty open-minded and?
Well, generally don't paint humans that much. I sometimes do. A lot of nature-based things, a lot of character stuff, which seems to fit well with street art world. And I often like to play with pixels, kind of distorting the lens I get a bit.
Yeah. So here you are, you've got this place in Collingwood and you're not satisfied with that, so all of a sudden you bought another warehouse. Why?
Long term. So we have Collingwood for another 2.5 years, and then the lease is up, and we may get another 5-year lease. That building is falling apart, so I would not be surprised if it goes either way. But this warehouse that I've bought, I plan to do some bigger projects there, but also rent it out. So if anybody wants to rent, just give me a call.
And because when I went there the other day, is that there was somebody working within there. You weren't.
Yep, that was a last minute request a week ago. That's a friend, Matt Ling, and he's part of my studio in Collingwood as well. But this is a 5-meter high aerosol can that is polystyrene and hard coated, and he's painting the exterior on a scissor.
And it's a little bit squashed, isn't it?
It's all squashed. So they somehow 3D mapped the actual can, and they did a trial of a can this big, about 2.5 meters high.
Yeah.
And that would get placed in the city somewhere.
Yeah, it's down a laneway on a corner, I believe you were saying. And it's going to be very, like heavily painted over.
Yep.
So that it will stop other people taking as much. I suppose that's the reason. Although he said he's happy to go and touch it up a lot.
Yep.
Mike, what's it like for you when you do some of your beautiful work and somebody takes it? How do you now? And I know you're going to be politically correct here, and you're like, but it pisses me off when I see a beautiful piece of street art and a mindless tag on it.
Yeah, it's many things. It can be depressing, annoying, expensive for your time and money to repaint that, and insulting for sure.
Yeah,
I see it as somewhat inevitable. It's part of the urban landscape, and I have become accustomed to not get too attached, and that's a good and a bad thing. And I think that aspect allows you to express yourself in a certain way and to experiment, and nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, but they should, because they're arts of work. They should last forever. Are you very conscious to make sure you're taking photos all the time when you're painting it and your finished product, so you've got a record of it?
Not enough. And this is something that there's a community of bloggers, I guess you could call them.
Okay.
And they hunt down art. They have their Instagram kind of groups, and these people have high-res cameras, and they will get there when the light is best. Because sometimes I finish at night, or sometimes it's there's shadow right on the wall, or there's a car on the way. So,
Well, yeah, well, that's often a problem, isn't it? So it's like when Banksy, puts a new piece up around London somewhere. Like there's hundreds of people that are there to see it the next day. Yeah. But then people try to steal it. Like knock down walls and everything to take a Banksy.
I would imagine somewhat depressing for him. Part of his message is anti-capitalism, and people cut out his walls to sell for $500,000 in fancy galleries. Yeah. So now, it kills his message.
It really does. It's quite distressing. Or the council come through and
whitewash it. Yeah.
Which you're like,
which has happened, but council also protects murals as well. They do a clear coat, and if the council can protect it, they will maintain when it's just a couple of tags, and then it never gets to be 4, 5, 6 tags, which means free reign for graffiti punks.
Yeah. One of your pieces, which I've found when I travelled down Flinders Street, is on the side of the aquarium.
Yeah, that was a fun project.
Yeah, tell our viewers what it is.
Yeah, well, that's a moon jellyfish, and they have them inside. And the way we chose that is they did a call out to their membership, which is like 60,000 members. Yeah. For anyone to do a drawing. So there was quite a lot of entries of kind of 5-year-old level.
Oh, gorgeous.
So I chose a 5-year-old drawing that was 3 jellyfish with happy face.
Yeah.
And it's kind of smart marketing from them because they got an interview with Channel 9 with this little girl and me. And, they wanted some kind of psychedelic colours because they project different colours onto these transparent jellies.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did that come about? Did they approach you?
That was through an agency called Alley Cat Creative. Yeah.
So they represent people like you for projects.
Yeah. So I think that they presented 3 artists, and I was lucky to get chosen. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And how important that must be for you to be recommended?
Yeah, it's really good. Some people don't like working with agencies because they take a big cut, but I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, it saves you having to do the groundwork.
Sometimes I think I would get more money because they know how to quote better than me. And also they do a bit of legwork, which is not the fun thing for me.
Yeah. But you said you're pulling back on doing that.
I'm trying to,
but it's not happening because you're becoming too well known.
Well, but sometimes doing things just for fun.
Yep.
But this particular moment, we're end of November, we're out of a long lockdown. It's just before Christmas. Everyone wants something done, and everyone's got a backlog of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's coming from all angles. So.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that, but I need to be more disciplined, I think.
Right. Do you find that hard? Especially if it's something and you think, I really would love to paint that wall, and the concept of what they want, and you've got all this other work backed up. Is it hard to say no?
I find it hard to say no.
Yeah.
And I take inspiration from friends some friends just do the one thing. They do black and white, one thing. And so I look at their world and go, all your decisions are so much easier. You know where you're going.
Yeah.
I think it's equivalent to like musicians. Like a musician could play many types of guitar, but if you just do one thing really well, you'll get known for that.
Yeah. Here you are. I mentioned in the intro about in Canberra, the National Gallery.
Yep.
What an honour.
Yeah, that was a acquisition where they wanted to get some kind of a snapshot of street art in Australia. And so somehow I was lucky to get involved with that. And
so they used more than you?
Yeah, there was 40, 50 artists.
Oh, wow.
And so they, I think they got one piece of mine about this big. It was cut out. And then I painted a mural in the front of the National Gallery for the day after the party. Yeah.
Right, okay. And then that was gone?
No, I think that they would have
still
stored
there.
that. Yeah, it was a temporary wall, so the Everfresh painted both sides of that.
Right.
So imagine that's in storage somewhere in the basement there. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's not gone. And what about the NGV? What did you do
NGV,
there?
this is also Everfresh related, and I actually did an exhibition in a gallery in the NGV, but the...
Hello?
That was No Vacancy Gallery, that's the atrium, so it's not quite the NGV level.
Yeah,
but
still.
When NGV opened in Fed Square, they had a competition to do like an installation in the front, and I guess the award was a month residency. Yeah. And Everfresh won this, and I remember we were talking about all these grand ideas of like ice sculptures and hanging from the ceiling, and it was so new that we're talking to the directors, and he didn't really even know it was going to be the ceiling. So with the budget, we basically bought a van, decked it out like a graffiti kid's fantasy with a giant pen on the top and different cans in the middle. and put that in the atrium. And that was the piece.
Yeah.
And then we kept the van for another 2-3 years till it died, and just used it for projects.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Hey, you made something sensible.
We actually moved studio in that time, and so what we did, we got their removalist to put everything from our studio into the truck.
Yeah.
We set up our studio in NGV, and then took half of it back and left the other half of dirty carpets that we didn't want anymore. So it looked like our studio for a month.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we started fresh.
Yeah. The NGV is so active, and they have so many exhibitions all the time. Like, do you ever approach them, or like look, because your profile is so high? I think you need to remind them who you are.
That's quite flattering, and I guess I should be thinking big, hey?
Yeah.
They used to call us when they had truckloads of paint to get rid of.
Oh, did they?
And so we'd go there with 2 vans and just fill it up, and for them it cost money to get rid of. So
yeah.
And the guy who used to call us, he moved on to another position. So
we
don't get the call anymore. Yeah.
Hey, I know the director of the NGV. I should have a word for
David?
You. No, Tony Elwood.
Okay, yeah.
Tony Elwood.
Drop a line, yeah.
And down in Tasmania, like one of the most famous galleries in the world now.
Mona, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm not sure what you said on your screen there, but I didn't do something in Mona. It was the Mona Forma party.
Oh,
so it was for Mona, I guess.
Hobart. Yeah, well, it's for them.
For Mona, yeah. And so this was it's kind of like a nightclub, I guess, for the official after party, and it was free reign to do whatever you wanted in there.
And what did you do?
There was a number of murals, but I did a few installations as well, and we had. We're doing welding and concreting, and created a dome as well, geodesic dome.
Right.
And it was, the theme, I guess, was like one 4-level organic structure there's 4 or 5 different DJs in that section.
Yep.
And lots of crazy lighting and
right.
Yeah.
Because the gallery itself is very confronting, isn't it? He's pretty out there. So no matter what you do, like the art inside the gallery.
Yeah, I actually painted a giant vagina in kind of looks like a flower, and it's so big that you don't really see it's a vagina until. And I nearly met David while she was talking to my girlfriend, and I was about to tell him, hey, I painted that one for you, but we didn't actually meet.
What a shame.
I'm sure he would have been into that.
Oh, he would have loved it. He would have loved it, and especially what he's done for Tasmanian tourism. And so, Mike, what's next? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, next big project coming up. I have 2 things in January for Moorabbin Council and Dandenong.
Right.
And then February, I'm away the whole month on the road in South Australia for 2 things. But in general terms, I want to keep travelling 1 or 2 times a year overseas, different projects.
Okay. And that would be for what? To exhibit or to paint?
Probably more realistic to paint murals, but exhibition as well.
Right. But hold on, you see, you're such a liar. Don't trust in people. He lies all the time. Like you say that you want to pull back.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you're saying, I want to travel the world and paint.
Pull back in quantity, but increase quality.
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you. So you're like, it's there. You're like, you'll keep on doing it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the world opens up to make it easy and everyone gets connected again.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Congratulations on what you've already achieved, because I think what you're doing is so powerful, and I can't wait to see what's next, or what next transformer. You're like, what about doing one twice the size?
It's funny you say that, because me and Cesare, we were talking about that actually.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. And would it be a permanent fixture somewhere, or?
It would have to be. Yeah. The weight of that, you need a crane and.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You've been watching The Art Hunter. I'm David Hunt, and we'll be back again next week. See ya.